So today is all about you guys, you all interacting with each other, and learning from each other's skill sets, backgrounds, and disciplines. So before we get started, remind me of all your names. Cole, what letter does it start with? H. Anna?
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't here last time. I'm Kevin.
Kevin? Perfect. Emily?
Yeah.
And
Rebecca?
Rebecca? All I had to do was look. And you were Pooja, right. Okay, perfect. I know we all have busy lives. Did anyone get around to the homework from last time? Taking notes, thinking differently, redesigning everyday objects. Did anyone engage in that thought experiment or write it down? And if so, do you have any insights you want to share with the class? Did anyone do it, first of all? It's okay if you did. It was homework, air quotes. That's fine. So basically that was our introduction to thinking differently and learning how to think in a disruptive fashion and in exponential fashion. And today we're going to do that. So today's a workshop. You'll be working in small groups. And it's all about, first of all, making things better. So coming back to the bottle analogy, you'll learn that I love the bottle analogy. We talked about repurposing the bottle, repurposing the materials and the design of the bottle to make it better. So today, this is the overview of the format. To be mindful of the time, this is the breakdown. So first, we're going to get to know each other a little bit better. We're going to do an exercise called Brainwave. So we're a few weeks into the semester, but maybe you haven't gotten quite a chance to sit down with each other and learn about each other's backgrounds. So that will be the first part of today. Then we'll get together in slightly bigger groups, learn the art of brainstorming, and see what other insights we can bring from our own backgrounds about how to brainstorm, build on ideas, brainstorm creatively and constructively. And then finally, we're going to build a business in 20 minutes and then present it in 20 minutes. And then we're going to talk about what we learned. So my objectives for you, at the end of this, I want you to be well versed in the art of brainstorming, thinking differently, learning how we can take pie in the sky ideas and take the first step today to turn them into reality. And then this was kind of based on our discussion and some of the questions that Gary brought up last time about the land of unintended consequences and ethics. So keep in mind that for every good thing we do, sometimes there's less good things or unintended consequences that come up. So without further ado, so the next 12 minutes, we're going to do something called Brainwave exercise. So we're going to take one sheet of a Post-it note, grab a writing utensil, and then I want you to write "talk to me about" at the top, and then list 1, 2, and 3. So that's the first part of the exercise. Take one sheet and then pass it on. And then once you've written your things that you would want to talk to others about, or that you would want them to ask you about, just put down your pen, and we'll get to the actual exercise. So you have about 2 minutes to get started on that. Don't overthink it, just write the first few things that come into mind.
So I think there are at least 2 more people coming, so if we have 2 groups of 3, they'll become 2 groups of 4, I think. So,
That's perfect, yeah.
yeah.
Perfect, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Does anyone need more time to write things down? No? Perfect. Okay, so what you're going to get to do is you're going to start in groups of 2. Don't overthink it about who your group of 2 is, because you're going to switch. And you're going to spend 2 minutes, I'll time it, I'll circulate, about talking to each other about one of the things on each other's post-it notes. You can do one topic from each of your post-it notes, you can just stick on one of the partner's post-it notes. And the idea is you're going to get to know a little bit about at least one of your backgrounds. And 2 minutes is really quick, it goes by really fast. It's meant to be a little bit unsatisfying, but the idea is you should want to talk to each other more and continue the conversations after the workshop today. So, I will start time, get into groups of 2, and then I will call out 30 seconds when it's on.
Want to step back?
So we just talk about.
Everybody's writing like paragraphs on the
What's the coolest thing happening?
Like something about
Actually, well, that's pretty boring right now.
it'll work. Okay, I'll go first.
Maybe
I'll
like
ask you.
I'm trying to apply to some.
Tell me about
So really, it's just a
what your
wing
plans
there.
are for
Is it the,
your
is it the
after the
Yeah, I had to.
high school, like junior high,
Nice, nice.
I just like Minecraft.
I don't think so.
I really liked it.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
like the
But,
technology,
yeah,
went to the
Oh,
technology.
that's so cool.
Are you just
What
like
engineers?
Yeah, pretty much. So results come out, I think, next week or something, right?
Yeah, okay, because I knew it was like February when I did that one.
Right? They didn't really specify or something.
Yeah, and I'm just like refreshing my email.
Yeah, it's so stressful. Oh.
Do you know when are you graduating?
I applied to some
Next year?
diabetes ones in Dusseldorf, and then I just picked the Berlin ones. I picked all molecular biology since I'm in self bio, and then I picked the Berlin one as like a shot in the
Is
dark.
it something
But I literally got an
absolutely
email because I think they ranked people on the
to
second,
work in
and
a
it was like
company?
over 100 people applied to that
What
one.
is your
So I was like, no, it's fine. I didn't expect to get it anyways.
Oh,
But
is it the cards that we have with the cell
I think so. Yeah, it's that one. Which one did you apply to?
that one, and then 2 more.
So why?
It's more like the so in knowledge, so it's like
And where are you? Where is this
yeah, that's the coolest
So just video chat technology in general.
I did in high school, and then I did a USRA first year.
And that's 30 seconds left.
What about you?
Okay,
My favorite is facts.
so right now, I'm just here and we are the incoming round of students, so
It's fine.
yeah,
we
I feel like
interview
when you actually like start
Computers in
just
general.
I'm just
I like
Last
stuff
10
building
seconds.
computers. One of my favorite things to do. So any computer components, I like to follow it pretty.
it's very like
All right, so that's time. So just wrap up your conversation and then mix it up again, and then we'll restart the timer. And just make mental notes of conversations you want to continue later. All right, and find your new groups.
Yep, so
Sure, let's go.
I wrote some like very random.
And
I picked some really random stuff. Oh, you're from Montana, right? So I was born in the US, but I moved out there. I was actually born in Mississippi. I moved like 10 minutes right after, so like I had the citizenship. So like,
Okay,
I think technically this was the first
Sure,
element,
you like
so I had to figure out how to do that.
so right now, I'm following.
Sorry, forgot. I'm 20.
So yeah, probably you're in the president's and like.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
What are your
Like that. After the ballot, I think I downloaded a form myself and emailed it.
I've literally voted absentee. I just been there.
When did you move here?
Nice not to have
Oh, so for grad school?
So my baby's just out, spend more time with my grandma.
So
computer?
it does cause a lot of and right
They're
now,
very, or just
Oh yeah,
the computer.
right next door.
it's literally
Pretty close.
I spent a lot of my time with my child.
Yeah.
so it's teacher.
So just like Any kind of hardware interface. I do like writing.
I want to do so I just technically put it in the opposite trajectory. I want to do a master's in public health, I think. So I just want to apply to like other schools. I kind of want to. I kind of like personal student debt, but I at the same time live somewhere.
Yeah, I actually have two pairs, so if one breaks or something, the look is consistent.
Smart. 24 seconds left.
It's probably grass is always greener.
We help with basically like mental
So like,
Oh, okay.
I want to go to so like, big city. I don't know that much, so like, plus there's top 2 my things.
Last 10 seconds.
Different public years.
I'm sure, yeah. So whatever accepts me basically.
A little bit. Yeah, I can understand.
Alright, wrap up those conversations and switch one last time. Hannah's looking at me resentfully like that's not enough time.
It's not. Alright, wanna go? Okay.
What I'm switching.
Everybody has different styles of like.
We can sit there, I guess.
It's like a speed dating thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you need to re-switch?
Yeah.
Can you-
RPGs.
Let me ask you
First,
first.
second.
Okay.
What happened?
Okay, ask me.
Those two just switched.
Okay.
No left behind.
Yeah, well, you can keep talking.
As expected,
Yeah.
early 2000s.
So, like, I'm just thinking,
What about you?
I'm in very.
You'd be really helpful in helping with music trivia, which I suck at.
Ooh, is it more like a quiz bowl like reach for the top?
So right now we have a like a mental health I think a lot of trivia is
The
very
first interaction.
Yeah, it's kind of a
really
joke.
You know the game? Heard of it?
What kind of RPGs do you
Oh,
like?
it's
I actually like
And
actually more
it's just really simple.
Like
They
WoW or like
My play Flash Takes Time.
So I did play Make It but I
Do
did
stuff
test
like
for
create
this,
notifications for the game.
since that's kind of died out.
So back in junior high, that's what got me
This really
into
don't
it.
RPG
And
test
I
is
like
like
that was
right
more
now
fun
is
than
actually
actually
Love Final Fantasy, yeah.
and more hardware classes. Like high school hardware.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised they have it.
I love to do that.
It's too much for call
I guess they do.
right? So yeah, we just asked quickly before U.S. elections. What do you think about that? What's your ultimate goal?
So
This is
so I have like dual citizenship, and I like think I want to go back there for a class job, so I'm trying to like see what's happening there.
I'll have to
Exactly. Whatever happens in this election will also maybe decide how like determine whether I go back to the US too.
Can you vote right now?
I think I technically can.
Right now,
I'm gonna figure out how to do it. Logistics.
30
SKT.
seconds.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I guess the logistics are difficult.
So, what is there about it?
Yeah. It's just like it's
yeah, so I guess now it's just like to figure out.
Well, crap, because that'll be more interesting for you than medical applications.
I don't know even why I wrote that down as a very school topic
Because
because
like you
Yes,
decide
keep talking if you want.
when you come in, you're like, oh, like I can
Yeah.
watch A and B.
Oh, right, because you're here.
Yeah.
and you can rock the
Okay guys, it's time.
Never mind.
Alright, so wrap up your conversation. That is it. Alright.
2 minutes really just fast.
So how did that feel? Good. Did it feel like you needed more time with each other a little bit? I heard all sorts of interesting glimpses of conversations where people were born, being technically allowed to vote, heard that snippet, leadership in medicine, US politics. I'm impressed that you got that in 2 minutes. So does anyone have any insights that they want to share that they found from that exercise? Anyone? Anything at all?
I just think it's interesting to find out stuff about people that you don't have a lot of stuff in common with maybe, that come from different backgrounds.
Yeah, and when you say backgrounds, do you mean like discipline backgrounds where you maybe have been raised?
Both.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Did you feel any of that kind of helped you build on your own worldview or ideas or background?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Any other insights? Oh, not raise your hand. Okay, perfect. All right, so that was kind of the teamwork exercise, getting to build on each other's backgrounds. So the next part of this workshop is all about idea generation. And so we want you, when you're brainstorming, you're going to do this in groups of 4. So groups of 3, and then if the other 2 come, groups of 4. So brainstorming is all about volume and building on each other's ideas and not learning to unfilter yourself. And kids are really good at this. You know, they'll throw out wild ideas like, you know, why can't we have a candy cane, cotton candy, purple castle in the sky? And, you know, for adults we'll say, well, you know, gravity. So it's learning to defer judgment and then build on each other's ideas. So IDEO is a Silicon Valley design firm. We kind of talked about them at the end of last session. And they have rules of brainstorming that I really like. So that's what we're building our brainstorming framework around. So encourage wild ideas, you know, think even crazier than a candy cane, cotton candy castle in the sky. Think of a castle on the moon. Build on each other's ideas. Don't filter yourself. Don't say, oh, that's dumb. Don't talk on each other. Give one person the floor at a time. Go for quantity. So you see all this white poster board. I'm going to explain what we're going to do. But your goal by the end of this next 15-minute segment is to have it covered with Post-it notes. And so, you know, we talk about this every year that I do this, but it's easier said than done, and sometimes there's so much white and there's a little few Post-it notes, but really just go for volume. Just churn out those ideas, build off each other's ideas. If you want to draw, if you want to be visual, if you want to draw a stick person, if you want to draw, you know, a 3D rendition, go for it. Okay, so that's the framework of brainstorming. So I want you to get into groups of 3, and I want you to pick one of these topics. Okay, so these are your themes. Either things that should really exist but don't yet, like a toaster time machine, why not? Pet peeves, things that really grind your gears, like snowstorm in the middle of February. Greatest challenges in the world, greatest trends or technologies, or ways to positively impact increasingly large groups of people, whether it's one person, buy their coffee, 10 people, give out Starbucks cards on a corner, 10, 1,000, 1 million people. So I will give you guys a couple of minutes to form your groups of 3, and then I want each group to grab a couple of Sharpies, 2 to 3 colors of, or as many colors as you want of the Post-it notes, and then 1 poster board, and then we'll start time, okay? So, I can help you guys distribute. Cole, Hannah, Kevin, do you want to be one group? Perfect. And then Emily, Rebecca, Pooja, you guys can be a group.
Thank you.
I like these.
Or you can split them in half.
Was on blue?
Okay.
Do you want to split it in half and then?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Perfect.
There you go.
Thanks.
Sorry. Broke
And
your
then I'll grab this.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then we'll grab half of your green and yellow. Do you guys all have writing implements?
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, I do. I have a picture. Oh, thanks.
Alright, so it works, right?
Is that what we wanna do?
15 minutes starts now.
I have a lot of techniques.
We can start with whatever has
What
the
do
most
you guys
answers
want?
first. But we can start whichever one like the answers pop easiest.
Things that
Yeah, okay, what's your
Let's
biggest
do pet peeves then.
Not chewing sounds to eat.
A million pet peeves, let's go.
Okay, yeah.
People,
If you can solve that, I'll give you one
Okay,
go
yeah,
five.
I'll walk this.
Okay.
Start
Thinking
thinking
down
about
to
things
the-
and
It's
start
really the
posting them,
wording.
we can look at
The
each
words.
other's
I choose
answers
that,
and maybe
like,
get some more
sorry.
ideas off of that.
Okay, yeah.
Some people don't have to agree, right?
I write it down.
Oh yeah, sorry, sorry.
And then people who walk too slowly in the hall.
Oh, absolutely.
Really, really small people, slow walk.
Usually just a little bit better realize it's better. Everybody has a reason to be a slow walker.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
I'm like, oh, you guys are slow because you guys can't walk. Anyways.
For me, it's like when people, like there's switching classes, and then there's like an influx of people, but like sorry, you're like, okay, let's move, but like people just wanna stand there and just, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry if that's illegible.
I guess spatial unawareness.
Yeah.
What's this? We're on the wrong side. That's embarrassing. Is that good for pep peeves or should we have more?
Not
Oh wait, are we
super
supposed to do
like
all of them?
I think so, right?
No, you're supposed to pick your one theme. So like for example, pet peeves would be your theme, and then
Oh.
if, you know, list everything in the world that drives you nuts. So
Oh, I see.
Actually,
or you know, technologies or trends that you like or that should exist. Like maybe something teleporter.
Oh, we're arguing pet peeves, we just finished pet peeves.
I guess the idea is how we can solve
somebody has like
pet peeves, right?
Oh,
Like what we can invent
Yeah.
to like.
or like
Combat
it's
pet
like
peeves.
a quiet place and like a library
it's
or
like-
on the bus. Yeah.
See, you don't use your signal.
Oh, that's a good one.
Very good.
People who drive too slow.
You're really all about
Well,
these people moving too slowly in front of you.
All Canadians drive slow, your speed limits are ridiculous.
Hannah brings out the judgment. Alright, has each group picked their theme that they're working on?
So
Alright, so then I'll leave the rules of brainstorming up, in case you need them.
Thinking about
It's really just the chewing noises for me, I think. No offense.
People's music is too loud in their headphones, making your.
Oh, I hate that one.
people just don't use headphones in general. They just
They
play out of their phone
They like their
speaker.
phone on the speaker.
Oh, that's brutal.
that's actually so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who walk and take up the entire walkway, like
Like,
they spread out horizontally instead of
Yeah.
like single file.
It's like, it's okay if you do it if no one's coming to your chat. Let's kind of wait if someone's coming.
Guys are the quietest brainstormers I've ever seen.
Favorite things that people do at your team, like dumb questions people ask. 'Cause I'm probably one of those people.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
For sure.
People who ask questions that could be Googled.
Oh, I agree with
I would
that.
rather ask the question than Google it.
It depends on the situation.
Have we
Like-
color coded your contributions?
I hate when people ask me a question that I don't know, that I have to Google for them.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like-
And people ask me like, so hey, when's the like ad drop deadline? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just gonna Google it and tell you. That annoys me.
Feel so seen by this list.
I don't have that many grievances as I thought I did.
There's so much, it's like
That's the issue.
it's good for mental health, you guys. It's
What
unleashing everything.
what topic are you guys doing?
Same thing.
Wow, really?
We're just very
Zero
angry
topics.
People who steal my topic. So if you guys want to help yourselves brainstorm, you could expand the topic a little bit, so things that I wish were better that aren't quite perfect, then kind of add that to the list. Still seeing lots of white.
Things that drive me nuts. Wait, no. Things that drive us nuts.
People who ask a question that's not actually a question.
Oh,
So they just try to like flex knowledge.
But more
It's
of a
like,
comment. Those people?
yeah.
Yeah.
People who ask questions.
You know things. Surprise.
Put statements in the form of a question.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Shocked when it's supposed to be quiet.
minutes, you guys are at 8.5 minutes right now.
People who,
Yeah.
small and minor people who, people in general, it's people.
People, period.
Just cover the entire thing. People.
Yeah, yes, that how.
I want that piece for all around people, so just people in general.
So we should extend to how we should make things better. So how do we make people better?
How do we make people
Turn them
better?
into robots.
We can't, you know what, this is, we've
Tell me
gone too
AI
far.
that takes over.
Oh my.
So how do you spell it?
Yeah.
Very topical.
Reader tracking.
Nice, yeah. So most of our pet peeves focus around people. So how do we
Some people
improve
like this, oh my god. Isolate yourself.
behavior? Yeah. Just become a recurrence.
Well, quite a few of our stuff is like basic information, so we could just have a basic information course for people.
You make your own city, and then people have to pass a test.
A little microchip that's basically just like a Siri. So you can just think it. You don't have to say it out loud.
Please rush into temple.
You should see that, don't you?
No, I don't have the
competition to push the thing.
mental space to do that.
No, that was a thing.
Yeah.
Oh. That made me think of something.
Ooh, parents.
Just parents?
Karens.
Oh, Karens.
Karens.
Wait, what?
I get it.
I heard carrots.
Karens.
Carrots. Ah, got it.
Sorry,
What's the
Jane,
opposite?
Karens are-
Kyle's? Kyle's.
Kyle's?
Yeah.
Bargain
Male
Karens.
Karens.
I thought it was a cat.
Yeah, I thought it was a chat
Oh,
too.
yeah.
It's totally a chat.
No, that's a different thing.
Well, yeah, but like,
Is there a male version of a Karen?
Nope, stay at home, trying.
I've never heard of it.
maybe like a chat.
Are you more of like an online shopper?
Yeah,
We just don't shop very
the
much.
guys who go to the hardware store, we can
We
know
just,
more than the guy who works there.
Basically, we will buy things we need it, but if we don't need it, we're
So
not
Ron
gonna go
Swanson?
shop preferentially on Boxing Day kind of thing, right? So.
Michael Scott's in the world.
People who don't get this.
Perfect game with the meme.
Yeah.
I played that with my sisters and my parents over Christmas break. It did not go
Yeah,
well. They did not understand it
I
whatsoever.
think there's an age limit for that. 26 and under, 30 and under.
It wasn't more like it wasn't them understanding the picture. It was them understanding what was written on the card. You know?
Yeah, that's hard. Oh, I have one. People who say, I did a thing, or like, I really hate it. It's like, they'll be like, I did a thing, and they'll post like,
Okay.
the thing they did, and it's like,
Oh, people who post everything about
oh, that's
their
too.
entire life on Facebook.
Oh, people who post their kids on social media.
I don't know if any of these have.
You guys are all just coming down to 5 minutes. It looks like you guys are doing a good job in each group of covering up the white space, but I'm still seeing lots of white space, so no pressure, but pressure.
Hmm.
Okay.
Celebrities who try to live up to it.
Right.
That was brutal.
Because
People
like,
who
some
lean back
students
all
are
the way
just
on
so,
the airplane.
so obsessed with like medical school.
Me,
Pre-med.
pre-med.
Oh.
Pre-med, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's all
Oh,
they
you're
wanna
right, the
talk
word
about.
pre-med?
Pre-med.
Yeah. So are you
Oh.
a pre-med? Oh, I'm a pre-med. This is what I
We
did.
live in
This is
Canada.
what I
Get a hold of
accomplished. Like,
yourself.
calm down.
Good, great.
Ooh, anti-vax in general.
Ooh.
What is Ellen?
Has Goop come up yet?
Multi.
Oh, Goop Labs. Oh, Gwyneth
Labs.
Paltrow.
Yeah.
Do me a favor, add it to your list.
I'll just write goop.
I
TM.
can read this.
American
Morning,
Secret
alarm
Superior.
clocks.
The Canadians? I think it's totally the other way around. I've went way more Canadians who think they're superior than Americans.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like
Canadians are better.
Canadians in general think they're better than Americans.
But Americans in general think they're better than Canadians, and I'm neutral because I'm both.
I guess the lesson is just people are narcissists.
Narcissist, yes, that's a good one. Just straight narcissist.
3.5 minutes.
Okay.
Oh, people who are way too into crystals.
Crystals. Oh, geologists. I hate them.
Yes, geologists.
People who think oils are
Essential
good for everything.
oils.
Oh yeah, essential oils.
My mom likes essential oils.
So does mine.
Oh my gosh.
Listening to both sides of an argument. Do we already have that?
People who think they're always right? That's kind of similar.
That
I think you wrote
and
that.
put enigmatic opinion
Okay,
different.
What's that?
It's okay to
You
have
say something and they're like,
different
oh, but I
opinions.
did better.
Yeah, that goes into that.
Okay. No, ooh, humble braggers.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Mhm.
Humble breakers.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys are all secretly one of this big group.
We might as well just merge.
We're the same people.
People avoid that time because of mom.
Oh yeah, the
Listen
one
to
that
anti-vax group on
that like
Facebook.
4-year-old, right?
Yeah.
I
And I was
avoid
like,
it.
and everyone's like, don't take Tamiflu,
Yeah,
and
the
we could
doctor
die.
prescribed Tamiflu and the mom went to the anti-vax group on Facebook and the kid died.
Oh my god. You should watch Game of Thrones.
It's so good. Like, I'm
People
okay.
who suck
Oh, yeah.
people who are a little too into a TV show.
Are you judge? Is that shade at the
That's
other
like
group?
low-key.
Just TV shows in general. We're like,
People who like things.
there should
All
be
right,
limits
last
to how
minute
much
and a
someone
half.
likes something.
If you have white space, I don't want to see it.
Can we just
Cover it up.
50
Switch
stickers?
up the
We
color.
have to
Hate
Do something.
other
Be
unleash.
petty. Put your instructor who keeps yelling at you and cover white space.
passions. There you go. Just gonna put that right there. Wait, where?
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler movies, yeah.
But Uncut Gems was good, I think.
No, that was really good, but every other one.
Oh yeah, all the
was
others.
so,
Here,
like,
yeah.
You said at least
Yeah.
you're
right. Yeah, we just have to do some strategic placement. What else?
48 seconds.
Countdowns. Oh.
Lazy TAs.
I'm lazy.
43
Yeah, just
seconds.
like on their phones all the time.
40 seconds. This is all for Cole now.
Sorry, I took your space. Sorry.
Take my space. Don't go personal space.
Nails on chalkboard. Did that make the list?
Alright.
Plus 4 plus
Sound on the keyboard when you're using your phone.
Oh, you're right.
The worst.
My sister
Let people-
has that, I don't know.
Should turn it off. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is it-
Steal their phone and turn
Why
off the
was it
setting.
invented? I have so many questions. 10 seconds.
I think I'm all right.
Great.
Ooh, this one. People who take photos of their food.
Scramble, channel that master chef
We're on
energy,
the
and done.
But what if
All
it's
right.
really fancy?
So,
You've been eating it
you guys did
before.
great. I
Before
can
putting
see
it
a
down.
lot of
That's where it gets
volume.
from.
That's perfect. So that's just the start. So I want you to kind of take stock of your ideas in your groups and pick your favorite idea, pick your wildest, craziest idea, pick something that you think really should exist but doesn't, because now we're going to take this pie in the sky idea and work on making it a business. And so here is the framework of questions I want you to spend the next 20 minutes asking and answering. So now we're going to think about the logistics. So you have an idea that could potentially help people or make the world a less annoying place. So tell us what your idea is, what you're selling, what need it serves, and what problem it solves. who will use it and who will buy it. So keep in mind those can be two different things. So even if you're selling to kids, you may be, or if you want kids to use your product, you may be selling to adults or their parents. Or you might be wanting med students to use your product, but you're selling to med schools.
So why
come up
don't
with
you
your-
join one of the,
Yeah, I'll fill you in, Gary, once we're done briefing here. So then, let us know how you'll make money, what your business plan is, premium, selling things on the street corner and a lemonade stand, whatever you want. Threats and hurdles that you'll face as you try to bring your product to market. What help you might need, whether it's investors or skill sets you don't have on your team. If you have time, what your product and company is called, bonus points for your logo. And then the first concrete step you need to take today to make your idea a business or to make some progress. So more succinctly, this is Business Plan Mad Libs at Company X. We have created product name and description because of problem Y, which user said. It will appeal to buyer because of the value add. We anticipate hurdles and will overcome them by this mitigation strategy. Some of our strengths include assets, networks, and we will make money by business model. Because the first step we need to take today is blank. So whichever template you're most comfortable, I can switch back and forth between them. You guys have 20 minutes. And then Gary, I think you've been voluntold into this group at the back here, so I can just fill you in or they can fill you in.
Okay.
So you guys time starts now.
Alright, what's our craziest idea?
So what's the one we feel most strongly about?
Or what's the one that has a couple on here that all relate to the same thing?
Oh, okay, so
Right.
basically.
You guys can
just
also
wrote
combine
down a
ideas.
bunch of our pet peeves, and then now we're gonna pick one of them and come up with an idea.
These are all pet peeves?
Yeah.
I don't like being videotaped.
I'm sure you do.
So if we can create something that you
Which
can
one
wear.
do you think
Actually, I saw
you can
something
relate
on,
to the most?
With something that people wear sometimes, that if you
So
take a picture with a flash, you can't actually be seen. So if you could create something where you could wear it and then you couldn't be videotaped.
How would that go over these class?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little.
Serial selfiers,
I'm down for that.
It's a
Oh,
bit
I know another pet peeve.
offensive.
I hate selfies.
Okay, well, do
Not
we have
signaling
a
when
business
turning.
idea for anything else?
Since I have little micro frustrations about
I
that.
think most of these are about personality traits. I don't think you can really change those without
Yeah.
like resorting to like tyranny. So
Cheating. I don't like cheating.
You want to be
You're right.
videotaped?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, cheating as in like academic cheating? Any kind of cheating?
I mean, cheating, you know, as a deliberate attempt to circumvent
Can you go back to the
rules
last
in
slide?
order
Yes, I
to,
can. Glad to do that.
get a better outcome for
What is
yourself.
our idea? What is our idea is an object you can wear
There's many
that
reasons I hate cheating,
prevents you from being
one of which is the way it
digitally
cheapens any
videotaped,
victories that come as a result of trading.
digitally captured. Okay.
How would
Do
we
you want to
resolve
write this?
Does this thing already
cheating?
exist?
sorry.
Oh, that's a
Me?
tough one.
You know,
It doesn't
Do you
matter.
start
Yeah,
it doesn't
with
matter.
In this vacuum it's
external rules? Who's gonna
Um,
get it, sure.
What kind of technologies can we use or implement that can deter or recognize?
That's good, yeah.
Anyway, just fill me in a little bit more on what we need to, forget a company or something that,
article.
that we're suggesting our company is going to take.
It might be an article of clothing, it might be an
Yeah.
object.
In what way though?
I'm
Like,
thinking also
there's
thinking
always
of, like, Black
deterrence, but
Yeah,
then
they're
there's
like the
also
thing where you get like
obviously
blocked, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
finding
Have you
other
ever watched Black
cheating,
Mirror?
so.
Well,
There's
there
one
are
episode,
external
or a couple
rules,
episodes where like,
Yeah.
you
which
can
I
get
would
like
say
blocks
are,
and you can
are
completely
good.
block people.
That's just from like the brain, right?
They're not as
Isn't
good
it
as
like
internal rules.
I thought it
Everybody
was
did
just
the right
like
thing
contact
without,
lens.
Or maybe a
because
contact
it was
lens,
the
yeah,
right
something
thing
like
instead
that.
of because.
I'm not sure, or it could be an
Them's the
implant, a
rules.
brain implant.
Social
So that
conditioning.
that would,
Opposite. So other people can't see us now.
There's certain
Block.
hierarchies
I think
of
it'd
morality.
have to be something you would wear.
Morality is when you do
It'd
the right
have to
thing
be-
because it's
you
the
could
right
wear
thing,
something
not,
and it
not
would
because
just-
someone's watching. or
It's like
because-
the
It would-
reflective capability or something.
Maybe.
So how are you
Would you
gonna
wanna,
get
like,
to the
Something that
internal
could project
mind?
a bubble around you that was reflective, or that didn't pick
It's an
up
interesting idea.
some kind of signal. Does that exist? Is that possible?
They're like
Is what
Can't
possible?
rewire psychopaths.
That's the idea, is to create something that's
I mean,
not
we
possible.
could get,
Okay.
get them while
They're
they're
like-
young.
Or doesn't
So,
exist, either or.
I think they're like anti like
preschool or
digital
something,
surveillance,
maybe they
not
could do
digital, but
something
like
facial recognition things where like you like project like a series of like blocks on your face digitally and you can't be recognized, but then you still like physically appear in pictures. So do you want to like literally like block ourselves out of like?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's just answer the idea. What is our idea? Something where,
That prevents you from digitally
Yeah.
capture.
You want a.
what are you selling?
Anti-cheating
That.
Yeah, okay.
device.
So what does it need to
Sir.
serve? What problem does it solve?
Something that beats every time somebody cheats.
Don't
Yeah.
It helps.
Like a Pinocchio's nose. Maybe we
Capture
should name
on
it.
film
Yeah.
or in a photo.
It's like when I went to the
Let's get right to our
like,
camera shot.
psychologist
Who will
and
use
they
it?
have
Celebrities.
Also,
Who will buy
kind of
it?
basically
You know,
they
anyone,
based on your
anyone who gets their picture taken
behavior,
of them all the time and wants to be
it's
on
put into the
privacy.
screen and your mannerisms, they can detect whether or not you're intentionally cheating.
so like people in the public eye.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
people
to
on the guy.
a, to a solid 60% efficiency.
Yeah.
So how do vampires do that?
How do advise
Or the system, I'm not sure.
No, I mean, for sure,
How do you
Yeah.
make money?
they can look at
Just
things,
sell
but
it.
there's always, those machines will never be perfect or close to it.
Theoretically, you could also gather a lot of
Sometimes
data
you
and
just
sell
shift
that,
you
but if
because
we're a
of the
privacy
control.
company, we shouldn't collect
Yeah.
user data. You know, we
Yeah.
should just sell product.
Yeah.
What if
So anyways,
that's her fix?
What do you guys think? I think we need to,
Scientific
I guess
constraints.
cheating can
Governments
also
who don't
be,
want people to
Yeah.
not be able
related
to
to
see on
lying.
cameras.
Governments who don't want people.
I mean, wouldn't that be more direct, like just kind of a walking lie detector? We need to
Push.
come up with a product or something.
This technology
I
doesn't
think it
exist.
adds a
That's
whole
all.
other level of complexity.
Guys,
For
that's
example,
15 minutes left.
I think that my new sweater looks good on you.
Want external help? Investors. Company who actually knows how to make a product.
Anyway.
Isn't that-
That example?
Well, no, but the white line is a real thing.
Yeah.
We human beings need white
Probably-
lines in order to live socially.
Probably
And the right answer to that question depends on
like anyone
context,
who
right?
uses cameras.
Okay.
Would a camera company
Well, it's
wanna
just harder
help
to,
make this though?
I mean, I think.
quantify
Well, they would have
cheating
to-
They would,
versus-
because then they'd want to create
Lying.
something that can overcome it.
So you create another product that fuels another market for another product. Wow. Capitalism at its finest.
People to it, like Amazon created the
refuses to
Kindle.
brush, I tell him that somebody's coming here. Brush.
It's
Someone's
not
not
challenge
market.
themselves.
That's
so
not
they
cheating, I'm
So
making him
what?
do it for his own good. So that's
Camera.
just lying, but cheating
Companies-
is something different.
And,
Cheating is like harming that person, so.
Celebrities
I have quite a few conversations
Well, what would
with my
celebrity,
16-year-old
like
son.
celebrity, like, they could be like
They could be
influencers,
influencers.
like literally like sponsors, or else like,
Well, like, I mean, as
what's the
in
word
terms
for
of
it?
turning
Like the
this into
face
a
of this
marketable
brand,
product,
except I guess no face, because he wouldn't be
this would be
seen.
obviously easier than this in terms of how
Ambassador, like
Yeah.
celebrity brand ambassador.
Is there a way other than just total surveillance?
What
Not
is
to
our-
market it.
What is the company
to
called?
achieve that problem?
Now you don't.
I mean,
You don't.
you know what my pet peeve is?
You
Total
don't. Now you don't.
surveillance. Right at the top of the list. Very upset.
Wait, so what's that name?
Walked into it.
Now you see that you don't.
It's unbelievable, actually.
Or just NYD.
I've been invited
NYD,
in.
sure.
by,
MIT.
maybe let's go specifically for cheating as in
I think-
exams.
Well, yeah, well, it
Yeah,
has to be.
that would be
It
easy.
could just be like the shape of a person.
How do we-
So like exams like specifically or just like
Yeah.
activities?
I'll use a pencil.
Like if they're cheating at a soccer game or something like that
I
or.
can't trust
Uh, yeah, but I mean, we gotta narrow our scope a little
Yeah,
bit.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay.
What type of cheating is problematic?
The group at the back, are you doing well with this template, or do you want the Mad Libs template?
You can do this one.
The,
I know.
this or this?
Here.
Yeah,
This-
Mad
okay.
Libs.
We're worried that our idea is too difficult.
I have faith.
Cute.
I have faith in the brain power in this group.
Let's think of something easy like a company name.
And then you should make this really human and black.
And if you guys
Or it
want,
sounds like
I'll
like a
flip
flash.
between the templates, but if both groups wanna take a
Okay.
picture of each
Do that.
slide,
Yeah, I already
So-
took a picture of this.
Perfect.
Do you
Okay.
want to present, Carrie?
No. One of you guys has to either
I mean,
take the reins.
you're all
as the
presenting.
CEO.
group effort.
What is the
I
first
like the
step
idea
you
of
need to
leaving
take
it
today to make
Pinocchio.
progress?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Pinocchio, Geppetto.
And if you're ahead of time, you can also start building out some of the ideas in a bit more detail and make it more
Let's-
three-dimensional,
Why don't we
four-dimensional.
make an outline?
First step that you need to take today to make
Why don't we
progress.
claim that we have developed something that can detect the intention of achiever's intention?
Well, actually, wouldn't it be get money to design
I was
it?
gonna say, find an
So at
investor.
company X, we have
But before
created
you find an investor, you
a
need a
sheet,
business plan.
But technically, this is
Prevention.
our business plan.
Can we make sure
It
that,
needs to be.
like,
Well, I
there's
guess,
a
so our first step is,
It'll harm
our
you.
first step is elaborate on plan.
Yeah, that would be easy to like quantify it.
I mean, you could try presenting this as your business plan.
So
Results
Rob
may be very-
stumbled on
What?
to-
I guess
I think if you
do,
have rich parents at my work.
do market research.
Everybody seems to do
Market
it when
research,
they.
what type of people, and is
certain
there
type of
interest
moral
in this
transgression.
product? Do we all-
moral transgression hormone, okay.
Because we need to build our company on, something solid like that.
Let's go with biomarker in there.
Yeah.
Moral transgression biomarker.
Yeah, well, exactly. You know, that, who would have thunk it, but it turns out that,
Okay, ready to mad live it out?
Yeah, we should.
there is some chemical response.
Okay, so.
Cheaters, designed for
Now
the average non-cheater, the average.
we
So
have
what's that
created-
is,
What do you want it to be? Like
this
a,
device will pick it
yeah,
up?
like
Ooh,
object
nice.
or
Some
like
solar.
pick,
Beeping,
like
or
a,
will it, like what
what do we
is it
want?
gonna do?
Require product name and description?
Yeah, like what tangible
Because
item
like
would
in
it
an
be?
academic setting, like taking
I think just a clip,
that's very obvious.
something you can clip on your clothes.
Okay,
But-
great, thank you.
So 10 minutes left,
But
so
would
just
that
kind
be
of
like-
consider where you are and where you need to be in the next 10 minutes.
Does it
Play
have
the
to be an
game,
exam?
draw out your product, draw out your logo, be creative.
Digital devices.
Okay, give me ideas of writing down. Transgression,
I'll just write cameras, I guess. I'll think of a better word.
oh god,
Interferes with camera.
To
Yeah.
exhibit,
To,
biomarker,
stop.
Why don't we say that,
analyzer.
how about what makes our product that
yourself.
there's still work to be
Being
done?
photographed?
It detects it in the room, but we can't tell
Yeah,
exactly where
captured
it's
on
Okay.
camera or video.
Alright,
Okay,
happening.
could that not create more problems? Because like,
The
if,
overuse.
like, right, let's say right now in this room,
The,
the device starts going off, like any one of us
Yeah.
can be cheating, right?
It's like
So-
murdering your express.
Cameras.
cameras.
We would all end up having to take our tests.
Yeah.
Our product can be a little necklace, so that
Our
when
company will
you're facing the
provide
camera,
cheap-
it shoots something.
And
It shoots like a lighter ray.
what's our problem?
Yeah.
What is our problem? Just cheaters
That's
or?
my-
There's one that's not, can't see.
Well, we don't-
That disrupts cameras, or will disrupt it to the cameras.
Mass use.
But it has to be like multiple, because you could have like 100 cameras.
I don't know, I mean, you wanna take direct aim at academic.
Yeah, but the idea is that we could just shoot out in like
Sure.
a 180 degree field of
Academic.
view.
What if
Honesty.
you turned
Yeah.
and what do you want to get your side profile?
Cause you just
Then
can't
you
turn it. You
wear
wear necklace in the
a
back.
huge
You just wear two
Designed
necklaces.
Well, okay, then you have,
Universities are.
you put one
Yeah.
on your chest
So it's like
and then
very
one on your back.
Universities and schools.
They each have
just
180
massive,
field of view.
massive international market.
So it's like the Iron Man logo. Iron
Every
Man logo.
university
Or
knows,
if you're wearing
I
hats,
think
you can clip the
we're gonna
cheek.
hit the trillions of dollars.
The other thing I want you to comment on when you go up in your groups to present is kind of the insight of the ideas that you generated, some of the other ideas that you came up with, and then what led you to choose the idea in particular. So just kind of be prepared to give us some insight into the thought process that went into your 20-minute company.
Okay, well, first we finish this. Okay, design, it will appear to
So,
academic, well, so administrators?
I mean, you wanna break up tasks?
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
I mean, somebody wanna work on the benefits, somebody wanna work on the challenges.
I'm
can-
on,
I
I
can
can
struggle
finish
with
design for
benefits.
user.
Okay, we'll work on the challenges. I'm gonna finish this little Mad Lib here.
What, which
Yeah,
part?
two.
People from that.
Will appeal to post-secondary
especially
institutions,
people who are in
and then
often.
because.
Yeah.
Where you at now, design for?
We're at,
So Gary's
Field to
doing
Fire.
benefits
Design for I
of
wrote
this
design for people in the public
technology, I
eye,
guess
and
the,
everyday person who just doesn't want to be photographed. Like, maybe I'll just write to these people, because you already say before, right?
Yeah, strengths, I
People,
guess,
because,
weaknesses, same thing, I guess.
So, and one of the questions I was going to save for the end, but if you're ahead of time, is what are the unintended consequences of your product? And what are the ethical and or moral considerations
yeah, technically you can use this to avoid being surveilled.
of what you're designing? So
I could go murder
we
someone
can
and
save that
then
for
tell
discussion, or if you want to
people.
address it now, that's fine.
Yeah,
So-
know people
Or rob a store.
who are using, who are
Because
using
sought
it to break
the
laws
benefits,
instead of
integrity and
contain their own
accuracy.
privacy.
That's true. But it can also be fair for like people who wanna like
Evaluation of
protest,
knowledge and skills.
so I guess good and bad.
But there's some serious concerns.
Where do I'll put this in the end, I
Your
guess, or like,
headspace, literally,
protect.
you know, the privacy concerns.
Yeah. The other thing is reliability, whether the device that we are freedom of thought.
Do you have any thoughts for how this thing might work?
No.
I think maybe it's like a screen machine at the airport.
We anticipate,
And like, it's not only for exams, it's also
We
like
anticipate,
paper, I mean,
lots
so
of
you go
government
under like
restrictions.
Yeah.
when you're in the machine, here, I give you my paper.
Yeah.
Technical
Okay,
purpose.
yeah.
yes.
So right before you hand in your exam, you have to look at it.
Yeah, you do it in the integrity tester, test.
How are we overcome our government hurdles?
Another tier to TSA.
5 minutes left.
I think
So
they
should
Because think
we
about
Five
like
like
all the street
before
cameras and
and
stuff.
after, or just after?
They wanna track people.
I'm sure some people like
Governments
up
like
in
to track
and
people.
up
Yeah, they
as
really
soon as they
No, I-
sit down.
We just
No,
pay
I'd
them
say
off,
when
we
they-
lobby,
Yeah,
we will overcome this by just
We're-
lobbying,
we're-
but with celebrity money.
It's the unclear.
I think you
Marketing.
overcome it by
You
releasing
can't
the
waiver,
technology
you have to essentially
and
read
just
it.
I'm
letting
moving to Russia.
people decide. Because
And
if
then
you
is
the
there any,
technology's
like,
out there
follow-up steps
and
after?
the
like,
governments are
once
actively trying to like,
each
Well, what if they make a law that
that
prevents it
job
from
is
being
done,
released?
and then
well then they're screwed.
Yeah.
We provide
But if people
counseling
know it
services
exists
for
and
first
people
timers.
can see the reason
See
behind,
behind.
I'd say you'd have to do like
Or you'd have to like give the government like a backdoor, like you'd have to like not work
No,
against
that's
like.
a terrible idea.
I know, but
Terrible terrible idea.
so we would make money by
Can't break those.
selling our machines later.
well, technically we're very much abiding by the law if we do that.
Yeah, it's all educational institutions around the world.
And technological
And then the first step we need to
hurdles
take today to achieve this goal is
will overcome this
this
by
hormone
I say
changes,
try
or,
and get the populace
like
on
the
our side.
stats and
by
The general populace.
populace on our side.
Kind of like showing the future,
I'm
like
thinking
showing
more
people
hurdles.
how much they're tracked.
You know, how are we
Showing
going to
people,
prevent this
especially in
from
places
being
like
used?
New
overused.
York or I think Glasgow is one of
Used
the hottest
inappropriately.
cameras per
It was designed for
Yeah, for
academic
national
integrity, but it's, people are gonna want to
Glasgow
use integrity.
is in
of all
Oh,
types.
sorry. I thought you said Moscow.
no. Oh, I imagine
Can't
Moscow's
measure
not
it.
like cameras.
Whether the mechanic is ripping off.
Like any of these places where people are tracked literally everywhere they go. I think a lot of people don't
Well,
realize
technically we
how
are
much.
too, cause our phones.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like
Not allowed privacy.
Yeah, I mean,
it's dead.
farcical at this point, but
So I'd say a mitigation strategy would be to.
Alright,
So, yeah,
folks,
just-
you are at 2 minutes and 43
oh shoot,
seconds,
so getting the general populace on our side, so
Have a
that.
team that detects.
Okay, yeah, sure,
Or
do that.
have a-
Okay, yeah.
start
You know, very
packaging up your
compassionate
ideas, think about
team
how you're gonna
that
present,
is
who's
Oh,
gonna
sorry.
say
It's
what,
not like a publishing.
Great.
and anything else that you wanna
Will be
introduce
So
as in the
then,
backstory,
massive
and then
popularity
have
of
their
celebrities who are hold
would
huge
this be
public
like
influence.
in a public
Yeah.
room, so
I guess
once
it's
you're caught, like you're not
General public.
Cause if it was like in like the pavilion, for
Celebrity
example, there would be like long queues of people, and if somebody's caught, everybody would be like, oh.
No, it's just
Realistically,
like
something like this
if the camera is
existed,
the
the
machine,
government would
you
want it,
gotta hand it to
but they would not.
Dr.
They'd want
Solis
it
through the
They
machine.
buy it to never
Machine
literally get
registers
released.
the
Yeah.
deceit, but it,
But they would use it themselves.
it does not right then
How?
and there.
There's spies.
Oh,
You
or
follow
just
up
like
and say,
government
hey,
officials.
you know,
Like, could you
so
imagine
called it
if you're doing a shady deal,
we're,
you were pulling a whatever, and all of a sudden there's no video evidence.
This project has
Then again, video evidence nowadays can be also pretty easily
deepfakes.
deepfaked.
Six networks. Sure.
We'll
We'll
just
just
be-
be we'll just be
Do we
hugely
have
popular.
That's the
some more
first thing we
strengths
need to do.
included?
Yeah,
Make
we're
sure our
just
server
we're really
doesn't fall
popular.
down.
People will love this product.
We will make money by
Ooh.
selling
Ta-da.
these.
We have to protect it.
So
Patent it. Yeah.
those are gonna be expensive though, right?
Patency, important.
At luxury price.
At luxury prices.
Okay,
No, we don't wanna
so
make it any before the.
are we gonna construct it as we go? or-
Probably will be.
Unless we wanted to do like
I'm almost a script up till like
We
2/3 of the way in.
or like you get updates
I have-
or stuff every once in a
At
while.
Pinocchio, we
like
have
an
created
ad.
You
created
just
a moral
something subscribe
transgression
to
biomarker
it, like a
analyzer.
subscription model.
Because of
You could do
academic
that. You have to
dishonesty,
buy the thing and the
designed
subscription.
for post-secondary
That's so
institutions,
dark.
will appeal to administration.
Okay, sure. Are we gonna?
I guess members of
You have 33 seconds.
administrators.
Oh no.
We're gonna say high price and also introduce
Because
lower tier model that
Academic
has a
dishonesty
subscription
is a
update.
serious problem.
Okay, that can include ads
It will
somehow.
also appeal to
Include ads.
Somehow.
the,
I'm sure there's a way.
Instead of a
percentage of
picture being taken of
more
you,
upright students.
you become an ad. You just get
And-
covered by ads. and
Yeah,
photos.
actually,
Big body.
that's kind of smart.
So start wrapping up.
Actually, that's really smart. Yeah.
We anticipate student mild
Ads
student
instead of
backlash.
being invisible.
No,
Wait, so
I,
are we gonna be like invisible?
Well, I-
Like, yeah, or are we just like a
Just our faces
blur?
will be like blacked out or blurred out.
I don't think.
All right.
The cheap version, you just become an
I
ad.
don't think there'd
Yeah.
be.
So
Apprehension.
who wants to go
Apprehension.
first?
Wow.
I think the,
Team privacy, team cheating. Who wants to present first?
they
You
did.
guys got the extra one. You should go first.
All right. Pick a number between. So I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10.
7.
1.
7. All right. You guys get to go first. Which
Oh,
template?
first, what honor?
The honor and the
I would
privilege.
choose number
Which
10.
template? You were using this template?
I think we were using the film, the map.
We use both.
Yeah, we kind of use both.
Which one do you want up in the background? This one?
Let's use that one.
Oh wait. Perfect. All right. So gather yourselves and fit at the front. And we'll say we'll give you 10 minutes, maybe 7, 8 minutes of presentation, and then 2, 3 minutes of questions at the end.
All right.
Yeah, do you want to go up there? Yeah.
Or can we just sit here?
Yeah, can we just sit here?
Since then we have the background later.
Yeah?
Sure, that's fine.
I didn't finish,
Yep.
but it's bad.
What?
Like,
Okay,
the
you
first step
start.
you take.
Sure. So our company is called Now You Don't. That's our logo right there.
Called 9 Don't.
Now You Don't.
Now you don't.
Now
Okay.
you don't. Like now you see me. Now you don't.
Gotcha.
So we have created a little necklace. Which looks kind of like this. So it interferes with any digital cameras to prevent you from being captured on any pictures or videos. Because use of cameras by the general public, or because of the vast use of cameras by the general public, designed for the people in the public eye, and this doesn't make any sense.
Oh no, I don't think that sentence is great.
So we created this because there's so many cameras throughout. Anywhere you go, no matter where you are, there's cameras watching you, people taking selfies, and you can be in the back, things like that. So this product is really for anybody, whether you're in the general public or like a celebrity or just a billionaire who doesn't want to be captured on camera.
Yeah, and this idea came up because we don't like being photographed or recorded, ironically enough.
So we anticipate a lot of government pushback and technological hurdles if we were to create something like this. And to overcome, especially government pushback, because I expect it to be a lot, you try and get the general population on your side and try and get them to maybe be a little distrustful of their government and try and figure out why a government might not want this to be in place.
And one of the major things you'd have to do is find investors, so celebrities would be a great people to go to for not only ambassadors, but ones who have kids who want to protect their kids from being captured, or even camera companies who create cameras, because if they have a hand in creating the technology, they might have the upper hand in defeating the technology, which also isn't good for us, but.
We want to sell two different versions of the product, a higher priced one, a lower priced one. The higher priced one would just remove you completely, maybe show a black area, and then the cheaper one, we would include ads in it. So if you get photographed, you would be replaced with an ad for something.
This allows it to be accessible to both the celebrity class and also the general populace.
Yeah. Yeah, that's our product.
Question from the press gallery.
Yes.
Why are you pro serial killer?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm a criminal and I'm interested in your product.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously realize that it can be used by criminals, but you know, I don't know.
It's just like, you could say gloves are pro serial killer because it inhibits people from leaving fingerprints behind. But you could also, like, if someone does commit a murder after they get, hopefully not, okay, let's go with the lesser crimes. If someone commits a robbery and they go to jail, if they get released, you can say you're not allowed to have this device. So they're not allowed.
You could even have a more rigorous, like you could have a system of some sorts, and then each one could project like a signal or like a lack of signal that's kind of unique to each one. So then, even though you couldn't personally identify the person, like from a general picture, you would be able to identify the purchaser. So there's kind of a veil of privacy in a sense, but there's still kind of direct accountability.
Can I make you an offer of a lot of money for some sort of key, whereas I'm, as a special customer, can override it and see whoever's face I want?
What could go wrong?
No back doors. No back doors at all.
Exactly.
No government
Defeats the
back
person's
doors. No.
purpose.
No government back
No
doors?
government back doors.
Just like Apple, you won't break
Yeah,
the
no.
code for anything?
No.
So then does this become like a dark web kind of thing where anyone who wants to erase their footsteps, regardless of what their intentions are, has access to your product? No questions asked?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yes, it's a little less dubious or devious than the dark web because at least you're kind of confined within like a physical space, whereas I guess when you have anonymity in like a digital world, you're kind of free to do whatever. It's kind of like the Wild West, but at least in a physical space, and say if we had that kind of registration system, we'd be held to some kind of.
And what if you were hacked with your registration system? Is that a privacy breach? Data breach?
If we were hacked in this hypothetical system, then you would get access to who you still wouldn't be able to see people with photographs, but you'd be able to identify people.
You would most probably get their like their ID, I guess, or whatever. Yeah.
And you're planning on selling to private individuals?
Yes.
What about organizations? Say someone who coincidentally happens to be called the KGB wants to buy your product.
No.
So how do you decide? Or say I, as a very upstanding citizen, arrive in my white van and you notice there's a shovel, a garbage bag, gloves, and rope in the back. Are you going to sell it to me?
You like fishing?
Personally, I'm fine with just giving it to everyone. If everyone has it and everyone wants to regulate their own, power to the people. That's how I see it.
Well, in some ways, you're trying to put the camera genie back in the bottle. It seems like you've got you object to all of the cameras everywhere.
Yeah, basically.
There's just too many.
Trying to give people a way to take back some of their privacy.
Did you think about an evolution of the baseball cap to make a really large print?
It could work. I mean, you could just like.
That's the analog version.
Yeah. Maybe Dr. Solaz's hat just a little bit longer.
So, and then, what is the idea that this is based on like machine learning with facial recognition that's so good that even if there's CCTV of me out there in the past, it would go back, recognize my face, and delete it from previous footage?
The idea is that the thing you're wearing, it emits a beam of like light that's not visible to humans, but interferes with cameras.
So it's like a cloaking device.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
essentially, yeah.
So it won't be able to prevent anything that happened in the past.
Interesting. Very cool.
So
A
the-
very novel idea.
The government won't be able to see you, but they'll just know that you might have something to hide.
But if enough people use it, then everyone will look suspicious, so then no one will look that suspicious.
Hey,
Nothing, a
pay no
little
attention.
interrogation won't get out of you.
Pay no attention to the unmarked car across your desk. Any questions from this team at all? Any comments on other ideas that you guys were thinking of and ideas that you settled on, or you had before you settled on this one?
I think we just realized most of our pet peeves were character traits, and we didn't know how to fix them.
Yeah.
Went down the dark road of introspection during this exercise, is that what you're saying?
Real long and hard.
Well, that was really well done. Any other comments? All right. Now you do it. Well done. Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's interesting implications though, about how you're repulsed by the idea of being photographed.
Ironically.
No, I mean, the amount of surveillance in the last decade, has gone up 1,000 times, almost without anybody noticing.
It's fascinating. There's a show out there called Forensic Files, and a lot of the cases they pull out are based on serial killer cases from the 50s, the 70s, when they really had to rely on analog technologies and scribbling a pencil over a sheet of paper to see what was written on it before. And so it's really interesting to see, if Ted Bundy had tried his crime spree in this day and age, how far would he have gotten? So it's interesting to see the double-edged sword of technology. On that cheery note, over to you. Do you guys want to present at the front? Do you want to stay where you are? Stay where you are.
You're perfect. I'll just shift.
Let's do a
Do you-
powwow here, guys.
Which template? Do you want this template?
We'll stay there, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So, let's do a powwow, okay. Are you a science student, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you can help us do the last part. You can think of a hypothetical way to do this.
Okay.
I'll introduce it, and then I think, Pooja, you already brainstormed about what the challenges were, right? And then Gary already thought about the benefits.
I'll take a stab at it.
Okay. All right, let's do this. Okay. So, at Pinocchio, we have created a moral transgression biomarker analyzer because of academic dishonesty, designed for use at post-secondary institutions. So we'll appeal both to academic administrators and also members of the student body because academic dishonesty has become very rampant in the last few years, especially with increased competition and the wider use of technology.
So we are using the problem with this device would be the reliability of the device, whether it can be relied or not. And the other thing is that other people in the examination hall or the academic institution who are honest, they might suffer because of this problem, this device. So these are the two drawbacks of this.
Yeah, at Pinocchio, our crack scientists came across a surprise idea that the human being in the act of academic cheating emits a certain marker that we can detect.
It's very convenient.
So, the outcome sought would be a real academic integrity without the heavy hand of total surveillance, or at least seemingly total surveillance. And the idea that people would know that they simply can't cheat the system, whether in tests or papers, it would be so good that they wouldn't even try. And the other outcome is true fairness in the evaluation of knowledge and skills. So we're in a pretty big market, every school in the world. So we think very profitable for investment?
We're gonna make money by selling our machines to post-secondary institutions and schools, like just in general. And then the first step we're gonna take is, I think, to make sure this is ethically okay to do, and to convince schools that they need this machine, which I don't think is gonna be very hard. So, yeah.
We've
So-
already bought our speedboat.
Sorry, say that again?
We already bought our
Okay,
speedboat.
very, very optimistic. You believe in your product, I appreciate that. So does your product, question from the press gallery, does your product distinguish between intent? So, for example, if you had someone who had not been, came from a academic upbringing where they didn't know all the rules of academic sourcing, and they just accidentally plagiarized, does your biomarker pick up on that?
I don't think so. If the person does not know that if it's an accidental type of cheating, it seems to measure the intention, the deceptive intention. So if it was an honest error, it probably would not register.
So what you're saying is your product has holes and gaps in it. And so
you guys wouldn't say that, would you?
what do you estimate as the false negative rate? And do you think that you're missing a large proportion then of the people who may potentially be engaging in academic misconduct, hypothetically?
Well, the same reason it also could, because picking up intent doesn't mean the person also follows through with this intent. So there are obviously some deficiencies right now, but those are things that we're fully aware of and things we're going to work on.
Our backers aren't nearly as worried about accidental transgression as deliberate.
Okay, and so then on a couple more questions on the issue of biomarkers. So that implies some sort of blood marker or biologic marker. So is this invasive biological testing? Do people have to opt into it? And what if people refuse to opt into it?
Can't discuss that till we've gone through the path.
Give me 6 years to get a PhD in biochemistry and I can tell you the answer.
Well, if it's a pheromone, right, then it would be non-invasive if you're giving off something. So what about psychosis as an absolute protection, that if you're crazy enough, probably even though your intent is to cheat, your mind would be altered enough that you would not produce this substance. So the really crazy cheaters would get off because their brains are miswired or whatever.
We're thinking that chances of somebody being in psychosis probably doesn't really have the means to really produce good results anyways. This might be something that we don't have to consider,
Right.
except in very, very small, rare cases, which we can't cover all the bases on.
Yes.
So on the flip side, have you thought about parallel markets? Because ostensibly deceit is deceit, and whether you're lying in a polygraph test or shoplifting with intent or proposing to plagiarize a paper, those all are forms of deceit. Have you thought of expanding your market for world domination?
You seem to have much better results at academic dishonesty than other types. Can't explain that.
Further studies are needed. Any comments from?
What if someone doesn't believe they're cheating? So like some people might say using a test from a couple years before is using your resources, not cheating. Other people might say it's cheating. What if the student doesn't believe it's cheating? They don't. Would that still work?
Well, here at the U of A, for example, at the very beginning of all your classes, you go over your course syllabus and you're expected to know what the U of A considers cheating and what the U of A doesn't consider cheating. So in that case, they should know what cheating is and what cheating isn't. So I wouldn't say that's a very good excuse as to why you're cheating.
But they still I'm gonna assume the majority of the student body doesn't actually go over that and read that information. So what if they just literally don't believe that they're cheating?
These rules will be iterated at the beginning of every exam.
No, we do worry a little bit about self-deception. All of us consider ourselves to be masters at self-deception, but we think some people might be better at that, and then they might be able to foil our system. So.
This is getting uncomfortably existential. All right, so that was really well done. Give,
Do you have any buyers?
Pinocchio. I'll wait for the technology to improve and prove that it has market traction when people willingly opt into it in initial studies.
Just like they willingly opt into the surveillance of the smartphone?
Yes, that's exactly. I mean, you mean you don't read your end user license agreement in its entirety? You guys, that was great. So in the last 5 minutes here, hopefully we got some insights about thinking differently and why we think differently. So I want to show you this video because I really like it. So we started off talking last time about bottles, and we said, why do we think differently? And because there's potential in everything and everyone, and I really like this video. We started with bottles, we'll end with bottles, if it loads. Where'd it go? I hear it, but I don't see it.
It's on the side. You got a slide there?
Well,
solar bulbs is a cheap way of allowing light to go through your roof. By putting this on the roof, it goes through the bottle. The water serves as a thick lens, and it enters. And once water hits water, a solar bulb is a cheap way of allowing light to go through your roof by putting it in a very big way. That's 55 watts of free electricity. So what you say during the day, you can use the water for cooling, transforming society as we know it. And if you can improve a life of a family, even in the smallest way, but make cumulatively many people be able to benefit from this, you change a whole new generation. They can read, they're better nutrition, and the same thing is you don't have to spend money where it's not necessary. And that's the gift of the solar bulb.
Millions of people live in Manila's slums. It's midday, but the people live in
we
darkness.
have a few of these going.
When it's dark,
So what you saw there was repurposing of the bottle in poor villages in the Philippines. So we talked about bottles as art installations, as planters, as jewelry cases. And here what a Filipino entrepreneur did was he took it, filled it with water, added a little bit of chlorine for decontamination. And then you saw him drilling the holes in these roofs, these tin and corrugated steel roofs that don't have electricity or that might overheat from electricity during the day if they're running conventional bulbs. And by refracting the sunlight, we're able to generate as much light in these corrugated cardboard habitations. So this is kind of one of my favorite use cases of the bottle. So this is just kind of to wrap things up, to show about the potential in everything and everyone. And then I'm just going to find the presentation here. Where do I go to find
It's
that?
PowerPoint, I guess. Or,
Maybe here? Nope.
It might be
Clearly not a Mac user.
Safari.
Nope.
So it is.
I'm so lost.
Was it in Keynote possibly?
Isn't the PowerPoint one over there?
This one?
Slides.
No.
Go-
Which
Google
one's Keynote?
Slides, but
Keynote
I
is
think
the podium.
podium.
The blue podium.
It's next to iTunes? Yeah.
No.
Nope,
it's-
because that's launching. Okay, well, it was a good presentation we had once. Don't worry about it. There was just one last slide to wrap things up. So basically I just wanted to talk about the insights you've gleaned about the brainstorming process. So we talked about the idea rules, about going for volume, building on ideas, deferring judgment, thinking wildly and crazily, having one conversation at a time. Did you have any other insights or judgments about idea generation that came out of your own experiences here today? So some of you, everyone here has different academic trajectories. When you're going, you know, wherever you end up, whether it's in research, in medicine, engineering, do you have any insights as to how you might go about generating ideas, whether you want to share with the group or not? So that was one question. And then the other question I had for you all is, we talked a little bit about this, but the land of unintended consequences, did it become kind of apparent, even as you were within your own groups or listening to other groups, that perhaps there was good as well as bad? Yeah?
The slopes are all slippery.
Yes, and sometimes exponentially so. So that's about all that I have, unless there's any comments from the class. And conveniently, that brings us to 1,520 hours. So I'm around for questions. I'm also back on Thursday to talk about resilience, the next 100 years, space, all sorts of things. So if you have any questions, my email address, once we find the slides again, is shawnapandya@gmail.com. I'm around for a few minutes. And then if there's specific things you want to see out of my remaining 2 lectures pertaining to your interests in medicine, entrepreneurship, technology, space, design, let me know, because it's a nice small group. You guys are all engaged. I'm happy to tailor the presentation so you get the most out of it. So that's that. Thanks, guys.